Hi, I'm John Liebman. Welcome to Beyond the Interview, where we take a look at some of the interviews I've conducted on ForBassPlayersOnly.com. Then we come over to JohnLiebman.com to take a look at what we can learn from those interviews, what we can take away to help make you a better bass player. This week's interview is actually with two bass players. Christian Fabian, great upright player, great electric player, long history with the Lionel Hampton Big Band. He's also released several albums of his own as a leader. And David Pastorius, also a great player, very funky player. Played with Tech 9, currently playing with Pat Travers, also released a bunch of stuff as a leader on his own. And David had a very famous uncle who was also a bass player. Maybe you've heard of Uncle Jocko. So anyway, these two guys, Christian and David, got together. They just released a new record called No Tricks. Two guys playing bass together at the same time, which is a concept that, truthfully, a long time ago, I probably would have thought of as not so advisable, given the register of the bass, how it's down low and it would tend to get very muddy, unless you're talking about a symphony orchestra where you'll have 8 or 9 or 10 double bass players all playing exactly the same line. But when you're jamming, when you're blowing, when you're improvising, you can very easily get in each other's way. Then I started to think of some of the collaborations of bass players over the years, like Steve Bailey with Victor Wooten and their Bass Extremes. And there was Jeff Berlin with Stu Hamm and Billy Sheehan, the B×3 thing that they had. And there was Ray Brown with John Clayton and Christian McBride. The three of them did an awful lot of stuff together. So it can be done, and it can be done well, and it can be done right. But there is a skill involved. First, you need to have one person who's down low, functioning as, the bass player. Then you can have one person in the middle outlining the chords. And you can have a third person up high playing a melody line or an improvised solo. Now there is a lesson here. When you're playing in a confined area, you think differently. It forces you to play stuff that you wouldn't normally play if you had the whole fingerboard at your disposal. You ever try to play a solo or a bass line all within, say, an octave or a fifth? Try it. It forces you to play notes that you wouldn't normally play, and it gives you a deeper understanding of the fingerboard, of the notes, and of the bass lines. And again, you'll be playing things that you wouldn't normally play. It's good for you. Try it. If you haven't checked out the interview yet with Christian and David, I encourage you to do so. If you're watching this on JohnLiebman.com, there is a link underneath that will take you over to that interview on ForBassPlayersOnly.com. And while you're there, you might want to check out any or all of the hundreds and hundreds of one-at-a-time interviews I've conducted with some of the greatest bass players in the world. And on JohnLiebman.com, I've got lots of free lessons covering all sorts of styles, techniques, and genres. And if you're already a member of JohnLiebman.com, then you have all of my lessons, all-you-can-eat access to everything there. And on those lessons, you can also download a PDF of the music with all the notation. And even cooler than that, I now have the audio backing tracks with each lesson. My members have been asking me for that for longer than I care to admit, but it's there now. Every lesson now has the audio backing tracks which loop, and you can practice over and over each lesson. Very efficient way of practicing. Either way, sign up for our email lists, subscribe to our YouTube channels, ForBassPlayersOnly.com, JohnLiebman.com. Thanks for watching. I'm John Liebman. This is Beyond the Interview.